Have you ever felt that quiet voice inside you disappear after a mistake, leaving doubt behind, making every decision feel uncertain, and slowly convincing you that maybe you cannot trust yourself anymore? Many people believe self-trust is something you either have or you do not. But the truth is that trusting yourself is a skill that can be rebuilt step by step. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your confidence is not gone forever. It was only buried under fear, regret, and the harsh voice of self-criticism. The moment you begin understanding why self-trust disappears, you also begin discovering the path that leads you back to confidence, clarity, and personal strength. Self-trust is the invisible foundation of every decision you make, every relationship you build, and every opportunity you choose to follow or walk away from. When that foundation cracks, life suddenly feels confusing because even simple choices begin to feel risky and overwhelming. Many people lose trust in themselves after one painful mistake that convinces them they are not capable of making good decisions anymore. Sometimes the loss of self-trust does not come from failure, but from listening too much to criticism from others who never understood your journey. Over time, those doubts grow louder than your own inner voice, and slowly you begin believing that everyone else knows better than you. But the surprising truth is that the ability to trust yourself never truly disappears. It only becomes hidden behind layers of fear and hesitation. Think about a time when you made a decision that felt right deep inside, even before anyone else approved of it. That quiet feeling of inner clarity is the voice of your intuition, the same voice that helps guide you toward choices aligned with your values. Unfortunately, when mistakes happen, many people punish themselves so harshly that they silence this inner guidance completely. Instead of learning from experience, they begin doubting every thought, every instinct, and every opportunity that appears in front of them. The journey of trusting yourself again begins with one simple realization: that mistakes do not define your intelligence or your ability to grow. Every successful person you admire has faced moments where their decisions led to unexpected results or difficult consequences. What separates confident people from those trapped in doubt is not perfection, but their willingness to learn instead of condemning themselves. Self-trust grows stronger when you treat your mistakes as teachers rather than evidence that something is wrong with you. Imagine if every wrong decision was simply information helping you refine your judgment and understand yourself more clearly. Suddenly, failure becomes less frightening because it turns into a tool for growth rather than a permanent label attached to your identity. One of the most powerful steps toward rebuilding trust is learning to observe your thoughts without immediately believing every negative story they create. Our minds often exaggerate mistakes, replaying them repeatedly until they seem far larger and more damaging than they actually were. When you pause and question those thoughts, you begin separating reality from the harsh narrative created by fear. This awareness allows you to recognize that self-doubt is often just a protective reaction, rather than a reflection of your true abilities. Another important truth is that trusting yourself does not mean you will always make perfect decisions in every situation. Real self-trust means believing that even if things go wrong, you are capable of learning, adjusting, and moving forward with greater wisdom. This mindset transforms uncertainty from something threatening into something that simply requires curiosity and thoughtful action. The more you approach life with curiosity instead of fear, the easier it becomes to reconnect with your natural confidence. Curiosity encourages exploration, while fear tries to keep you frozen in the same place where doubt continues growing stronger. When you begin choosing curiosity, you start rebuilding the relationship you once had with your own judgment and intuition. Think of self-trust like a muscle that becomes stronger every time you make a decision and reflect on what you learned. Even small choices, like deciding how to spend your time or what direction to take in a challenge, help rebuild that inner strength. Each moment you listen to your own perspective instead of ignoring it completely, you send a message that your voice matters again. Gradually, this process begins restoring the quiet confidence that once guided you through important moments of your life. Another obstacle many people face is comparing their decisions to the achievements or expectations of others around them. Comparison creates the illusion that everyone else understands life better, making your own judgment seem unreliable in comparison. Yet every person, rebuilding trust in yourself rarely happens in one dramatic moment. Instead, it grows quietly through small choices that slowly prove to your mind that your judgment still deserves attention. Many people wait for confidence to magically return before taking action. But in reality, confidence often appears only after you begin moving forward despite uncertainty. This is because the human brain learns through experience, and every action you take gives it new evidence about what you're capable of achieving. When you stop acting completely, your mind has no fresh experiences to evaluate, so it continues replaying old doubts again and again. Breaking that cycle requires courage, but not the kind of courage that eliminates fear completely. Rather, the kind that moves forward even while fear exists. One powerful way to begin rebuilding self-trust is by making small decisions intentionally instead of avoiding them or constantly asking others to decide for you. These small decisions might seem insignificant at first, yet they create a powerful psychological signal that your perspective still matters. Every time you allow your own judgment to guide a choice, you slowly rebuild the internal connection between thought, action, and belief. Over time, this connection becomes stronger, making it easier to rely on yourself even when situations feel complicated or uncertain. Another helpful step is learning to reflect on your decisions without immediately labeling them as success or failure. Reflection allows you to understand what worked, what did not work, and what valuable lessons you can carry into future situations. Instead of asking yourself whether a decision was perfect, ask what information it revealed about your values, your priorities, and your natural instincts. This shift in perspective transforms every experience into something useful rather than something that damages your confidence. Gradually, you begin recognizing patterns in your thinking and behavior that reveal strengths you may have ignored for a long time. At the same time, you also discover areas where growth is possible, but without the heavy weight of self-judgment. Self-trust grows best in an environment where learning is encouraged instead of punished. Imagine treating yourself with the same patience you would offer a close friend who is trying to rebuild their confidence after a difficult experience. You would likely encourage them to keep trying, remind them of their strengths, and help them see progress, even in small steps forward. Offering that same kindness to yourself can feel unusual at first, but it is a powerful way to weaken the harsh voice of self-doubt. Another important step in rebuilding self-trust is reconnecting with your personal values and understanding what truly matters to you. When decisions are guided by clear values, they become easier to make because they reflect who you genuinely are. Without that clarity, people often rely on other people's opinions, which slowly weakens their confidence in their own judgment. Take a moment to think about the qualities you respect most in others, such as honesty, courage, creativity, or kindness. These qualities often reflect the deeper values that also exist within you, even if you have not fully recognized them before. When your choices align with those values, a natural sense of inner stability begins forming again. This stability strengthens self-trust because you know your actions are guided by something meaningful rather than random pressure from outside influences. Another challenge many people face is the fear of repeating past mistakes, which can create hesitation in every new situation. That fear is understandable, but it becomes harmful when it convinces you that growth is impossible. In reality, past experiences often give you exactly the insight needed to make wiser decisions in the future. What once felt like failure can become a source of valuable understanding if you allow yourself to examine it honestly. This process turns regret into knowledge, which gradually replaces fear with awareness and preparation. As awareness grows, your confidence begins shifting from blind optimism to something much stronger called informed trust. Informed trust means believing in your ability to navigate challenges because you understand both your strengths and your limitations. This type of confidence is far more stable than simple optimism because it is built on experience and reflection. Another important part of rebuilding self-trust is learning to set realistic expectations for yourself. Unrealistic expectations often create disappointment that damages confidence, even when you are actually making meaningful progress. When goals are realistic and achievable, every step forward becomes a reminder that you are capable of creating change. These reminders gradually reshape the story your mind tells about your abilities, instead of repeating the belief that. By this stage of your journey, you may already notice something important beginning to shift, a quiet realization that the voice of doubt is not as powerful as it once seemed. This shift does not happen because life suddenly becomes easier, but because your relationship with your own thoughts begins to change in subtle but meaningful ways. When people start rebuilding self-trust, they often discover that the greatest challenge was never the outside world, but the internal stories they repeatedly told themselves. These stories usually begin after a painful experience, where the mind tries to protect you by warning that making decisions might lead to disappointment again. Unfortunately, this protective instinct sometimes becomes overly cautious, convincing you to question every instinct, even when your judgment is actually reasonable and thoughtful. Recognizing this pattern is powerful because it shows that doubt is not proof of weakness, but simply a reaction created by your mind's desire to avoid pain. Once you understand this, you can begin responding to doubt with curiosity instead of immediately accepting it as truth. Curiosity allows you to pause and ask whether the fear you feel is based on real evidence or simply a memory of something difficult from the past. Often you will realize that your present situation is very different from the past experience that originally created the doubt. This awareness slowly separates your current decisions from the emotional weight of past mistakes. Another powerful habit for rebuilding trust in yourself is learning to celebrate small victories that demonstrate your progress. Many people ignore these moments because they seem too minor to matter, yet they are actually the building blocks of lasting confidence. Each small success becomes a reminder that you are capable of making thoughtful choices and moving forward with intention. Over time, these reminders accumulate and gradually reshape the way you see your own abilities. Instead of focusing only on mistakes, your mind begins recognizing the many moments where your judgment worked effectively. This balanced perspective creates a more realistic and supportive view of yourself. Another essential step involves developing patience with your own growth process. Rebuilding self-trust is not something that happens instantly, because your mind needs time to gather new experiences that challenge old beliefs. Expecting immediate confidence often leads to frustration, which can accidentally strengthen the same doubts you are trying to overcome. Patience allows you to accept that growth happens gradually, often in ways that are not immediately obvious. With time, the small changes you practice daily begin forming a strong foundation of belief in your abilities. Another factor that influences self-trust is the environment you surround yourself with. People who constantly criticize or dismiss your ideas can slowly weaken your confidence, even if their intentions are not harmful. On the other hand, supportive environments encourage exploration, creativity, and learning without excessive fear of failure. Choosing to spend time around people who respect your perspective can strengthen the process of rebuilding trust in yourself. This does not mean avoiding all disagreement, but it does mean valuing conversations that allow your voice to be heard and considered. Healthy dialogue often helps refine your thinking while still preserving your sense of personal authority. Over time, these supportive interactions reinforce the belief that your thoughts and experiences have genuine value. Another powerful technique is writing down your thoughts when facing an important decision. Writing helps organize your thinking and reveals patterns that might remain hidden when thoughts stay inside your mind. When ideas appear clearly on paper, they often become easier to evaluate calmly and logically. This process reduces emotional overwhelm and allows your reasoning to guide your choices more effectively. As you review your written thoughts, you may begin noticing that your instincts often contain useful insights. Seeing these insights clearly helps rebuild trust in your natural ability to analyze situations thoughtfully. Another important realization during this journey is understanding that perfection is not required for good decision-making. Many people hesitate because they believe every choice must lead to the best possible outcome. In reality, most decisions simply lead to new experiences that provide information for the future. When you accept this truth, the pressure to be perfect begins fading away. Decisions become opportunities for learning instead of tests that determine your worth or intelligence. This mindset creates freedom to explore possibilities that once felt too risky to attempt. With each new experience, your brain gathers evidence that you can adapt, learn, and grow through challenges. As your journey continues, something subtle yet powerful begins to unfold, a growing awareness that the relationship you have with yourself influences every experience in your life. Many people search outside themselves for certainty, hoping someone else will confirm the right direction. Yet true confidence often appears only when you begin valuing your own perspective. This shift does not mean ignoring advice from others, but it does mean recognizing that your experiences give you unique insight into your own life. When you start acknowledging this insight, your inner voice gradually becomes clearer and more reliable. Self-trust grows strongest when you consistently allow your thoughts, values, and instincts to participate in important decisions. Another important realization during this stage is that uncertainty will always exist, even for the most confident individuals. The difference is that confident people do not wait for complete certainty before taking action. Instead, they accept uncertainty as a natural part of exploring new possibilities and learning through experience. When you adopt this mindset, decisions begin to feel less intimidating and more like opportunities to grow. Growth is rarely comfortable at first, but it is one of the most reliable ways to strengthen trust in yourself. Each time you face something unfamiliar and discover that you can handle it, your confidence becomes more deeply rooted. Another valuable habit involves paying attention to the language you use when speaking to yourself internally. Many people unknowingly weaken their self-trust by repeating harsh or discouraging thoughts about their abilities. Over time, these repeated messages shape how the mind perceives challenges and opportunities. By becoming aware of this internal dialogue, you gain the ability to gently replace destructive thoughts with more balanced and supportive perspectives. This does not require pretending that everything is perfect. Instead, it involves acknowledging difficulties while still recognizing your capacity to learn, adapt, and improve. Balanced thinking helps create a mental environment where confidence can develop naturally. Another step towards strengthening self-trust is learning to recognize the difference between intuition and impulse. Intuition often appears as a calm, steady sense of direction, while impulse tends to feel rushed or emotionally overwhelming. When you take a moment to pause and reflect, it becomes easier to identify which feeling is guiding your decision. Practicing this awareness helps you rely on thoughtful instincts rather than reacting purely out of emotion. Over time, this ability increases your confidence in your decision-making process. One powerful way to reinforce this process is by reflecting on past experiences where your intuition guided you correctly. Remembering these moments reminds you that your internal awareness has been helpful many times before. These reflections strengthen your belief that your mind contains valuable insight shaped by your personal journey. Another important factor in rebuilding self-trust is learning to respect your own boundaries. Boundaries protect your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being. When you consistently ignore your boundaries to satisfy others, your inner voice becomes quieter and less influential. By honoring your limits and preferences, you demonstrate to yourself that your needs deserve attention. This act of self-respect strengthens the connection between your values and your actions. As that connection grows stronger, trusting your decisions becomes easier. Another helpful habit is giving yourself permission to change your mind when new information appears. Some people believe that changing direction means their original decision was wrong, but in reality, it often reflects growth and awareness. Flexibility allows you to respond intelligently to new situations without feeling trapped by past choices. This mindset removes unnecessary pressure and makes decision-making feel more natural. It also reminds you that learning and adapting are signs of strength rather than weakness. As your confidence develops, you may notice that challenges begin to feel less threatening than they once did. This is because self-trust creates a sense of inner security that remains steady even when circumstances are uncertain. Instead of fearing every potential mistake, you begin trusting your ability to handle whatever outcome appears. This belief transforms challenges into experiences that strengthen your resilience and understanding. Over time, resilience becomes one of the strongest pillars supporting your confidence. Another important realization is that trusting yourself also requires forgiveness for past decisions that may not have worked out as expected. Holding on to regret keeps your attention focused on what cannot be changed rather than what can still be created. Now that you have explored the steps, habits, and mindsets needed to rebuild self-trust, it's time to integrate these lessons into your daily life consistently. Integration is not about perfection, but about consciously choosing actions that reflect your values, intuition, and personal growth each day. Small daily actions, like listening to your inner voice, setting boundaries, or making decisions deliberately, compound over time into strong self-confidence. Each choice, no matter how minor, becomes an opportunity to practice trusting yourself and reinforcing the belief that your judgment matters. Another critical habit is reflecting at the end of each day on moments where you trusted yourself successfully, even in small ways. These reflections act like emotional anchors, reminding your mind of your evolving reliability and wisdom. Similarly, acknowledging moments when doubt appeared but did not control your actions strengthens resilience and self-belief simultaneously. Over time, these mental exercises reshape your neural pathways, creating lasting confidence in your ability to navigate uncertainty. Another powerful tool is affirmations that align with your true values, such as, "I trust my instincts," or "I am capable of learning and growing." When repeated regularly, these statements reinforce self-trust and gradually quiet the inner critic that once dominated your thinking. Gratitude for your progress also strengthens self-trust because it shifts focus from mistakes to growth and achievement. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, you learn to honor what you did well and the lessons you've gained from challenges. Journaling can complement this process by giving your thoughts structure and making your reflections tangible. Written records of your growth provide evidence of your evolving judgment, helping counter lingering doubts. Another important aspect of lasting self-trust is surrounding yourself with people who encourage your growth rather than amplify fear or criticism. Supportive relationships remind you that while external guidance can be helpful, your inner voice remains your primary compass. Trusting yourself also involves embracing uncertainty as a natural part of life, rather than a threat to your confidence. By reframing uncertainty as a learning opportunity, you reduce fear and increase curiosity, which naturally strengthens decision-making skills. Another key strategy is celebrating risks taken thoughtfully, even if outcomes are imperfect, because action itself is evidence of trust in yourself. Courage is often quiet, appearing not as heroics, but as the willingness to move forward despite hesitation and fear. The more you practice this quiet courage, the more resilient and reliable your sense of self becomes. Consistent practice builds momentum, turning small wins into lasting patterns of confidence and competence. Another element of self-trust is self-compassion, which ensures that mistakes are treated as opportunities to learn rather than reasons for self-criticism. Compassion helps create a safe mental environment where curiosity, reflection, and growth can thrive. Forgiving yourself for past missteps reinforces this safety, allowing your inner voice to regain clarity and authority. Visualization can also help. Imagine yourself facing decisions calmly, acting with confidence, and handling challenges with resilience. This mental rehearsal strengthens the brain's belief in your capability, translating into more assured real-life actions. Another subtle yet powerful tool is mindfulness, which trains you to observe thoughts without automatically believing every doubt or fear. Mindfulness increases awareness of internal guidance, helping you distinguish between constructive intuition and unhelpful self-criticism. As your awareness deepens, your ability to make decisions aligned with values and goals improves naturally. An essential insight to carry forward is that self-trust is not permanent or automatic. It requires consistent attention and practice. Just as physical strength requires regular exercise, self-trust grows stronger when actively nurtured through daily decisions and reflection. Another important consideration is embracing your unique journey instead of comparing it to others, which can erode confidence unnecessarily. Your experiences, values, and instincts are distinct, and trusting them requires honoring your individuality rather than imitating others. When you embrace this uniqueness, your inner voice grows clearer, stronger, and more confident in guiding your life. Another helpful practice is breaking large challenges into smaller, manageable steps that allow your self-trust to build gradually. Each small accomplishment reinforces your judgment and creates a tangible sense of progress, making the bigger goal feel attainable. Over time, these incremental successes accumulate, strengthening the foundation of self-trust and reducing the power of